Well, well, I want you to have a look right over there. You can see these two domes. They were for the Sufi sheikhs when they restored this temple. The locals in the area refused to move them. So, as I told you, Karnak from right pre-dynastic till the Islamic time, it was used by the locals here. One of the major celebrations here, it was the Opet, O-P-T, and that's when the god Amun was visiting his wife, the goddess Mut or Amun, there at Luxor Temple. One way was on the Nile, going from Karnak or from the northern Opet, that's what they were calling it, to the southern Opet, which was Luxor Temple. So the celebration was starting from the Holy of Holies, when the high priest and the rest of the priests start to carry on their shoulders the sacred ark, going in a procession until they reach this channel. And notice this ramp. That's how they were loading the bigger boat. Then the bigger boat via this channel was going to the Nile, sailing further to the south until they reached Luxor Temple. On their way back to Karnak, they were walking via the Sphinx's Avenue, which was connecting the two temples to each other. Before we go inside, I want you to notice this. There are two pipes here, water pipes. Can you see them? We'll talk about them inside, right? To be continued. Now, that's the bridge that we did to cross the canal. This way, please. Naam.
The restrooms are only at the beginning, right?
No, they are also inside.
Okay.
You will find a lot of bushes and a lot of columns.
You know, I'm fine with the need to pee. All day here.
Glad you asked. I don't know when you were in yourself. Yeah. Not sure how that's gonna go down.
So
One
easy.
other question.
Please,
How much do I tip if somebody wants money from me to go inside? How much do you give?
the lowest you can.
Okay, 100.
Yes.
And they go like more
Yes.
and I don't do it?
Then it's, you don't speak the language.
Yeah.
Now, I want you suddenly to become all Welsh.
Yeah.
Right?
I love the dogs. They're like guardians.
They are,
Yeah.
and they were in ancient Egypt, by the way.
Always.
Yes.
Yeah. Makes
And
sense.
they were connected to the religion of the god Ra.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel that they are really guarding the energies.
Right here, front of us, Sphinx's Avenue. By the way, these are the two obelisks that I said only one remained. This one, the smaller one, and that one that was here for city, it does not exist anymore. To the right and to the left, we can see Sphinxes. Ram-headed Sphinx. Sphinx doesn't mean that it is always or all the time head of a lion or head of a man, body of a lion. Could be, as you can see here, head of a ram, body of the lion. The ram was one of the divine images of the god Amun. The ancient Egyptian, he was a farmer. And that farmer was concerned about fertility a lot as a farmer. And he noticed that the ram is the most fertile animal. So he made him the divine image of the god Amun on earth. One of his divine image, because there was the goose, also one of the divine images of the god Amun. Between the two bows of the Sphinxes, we can see a statue for Ramesses II or Ramesses the Great. He's being protected by the Sphinx, But actually, he's doing something else also. He's protecting the statue itself. He's supporting the head. Remember when we were saying that you will never find a statue from ancient Egypt for someone with his hands opened to protect the fingers? And they were always filling the empty space around the neck to protect the weak parts of the statues. So that's why Ramses II here, he's supporting, filling the empty space under the chin or the head of the ram. And at the same time, he's being protected by the god Amun. Another thing, the general rule, if you still remember, rule number 1, as far as we go inside any temple, we go back in time. We have here Sphinx's Avenue, older than the pylon. But in spite of this, it's in front of it. We'll find out the reason when we go inside. Actually, the moment we pass this gate, we have 2 questions to answer. How did they build the pylon? And why we have here an Avenue Sphinxes older than the pylon, but in spite of that, it's in front of it. And I want you to notice the pylon. All the pylons we saw before, they were smoothed with reliefs on them. Here, this one was left rough. It was never finished. And because it was never finished, we found out how could they build the pylons. This way, please.
Y luego venir aquí que hay columnas, hay sombrillas, hay paredes.
سؤال الفل. ازاي صح؟ ازاي الحمد لله.
لو متاح نعرض عليهم
مش خدوا في فيله.
فينا
خلاص. معلش.
تحت امرك يا باشا.
شكرا. تسلم. ميرسي يا حبيبي. Let's go to the shade there. Folks, please stay in the shade. Please stay in the shade.
Thank you.
Face me and stay in the shade, please. Wherever we can find, no. And we promise we're not going to do this anywhere here. Thank you.
It was a misunderstanding.
No problem at all. Stay wherever I find shade, I will let you, please, to stay in, right? Reminding you, please, we are not allowed to touch or to lean against any monument wherever we go. Thank you very much. Right. Unfinished pylon, dating back to what's known as the late period. When we say the late period, that's starting from the 27th dynasty. Until the 25th dynasty, this collapsed pylon was the beginning of the Karnak temples. Can you see that? These 3 chapels you can see behind you, they were for the triad of Luxor, Amun, his wife, Mut, and their son, Khuns, the god of the moon. These 3 chapels, they were originally located outside the temples. That's where they were resting on their way to the boat, carrying the sacred ark. That's where they were resting a little bit before they continue walking. Starting from the 25th dynasty, and by the way, The Avenue Sphinxes we saw out there, dating back to the time of Ramesses II, 19th dynasty, about 1300 BC. It was originally starting from that gate, right over there, connecting Karnak to the Nile. Then the pharaohs of the 25th dynasty moved these sphinxes to the right and to the left, as you can see. Then they added these columns. Then, on the 27th dynasty, they added this pylon. So yes, the Avenue Sphinxes is older. It was starting from further inside. Remember, as far as we go inside, we go back in time. So it was starting from further inside the temples. Unfinished pylon, so they left behind them a mud brick ramp. You can still see the remains of it. And of course, we can still see it because of the dry weather they have here in Luxor. Very rarely it rains in here. Very rarely. And that's why you can tell the color of the sandstone. If we have any European with us, your sandstone is reddish because of the humidity, right? Because of the rains. Here it's khaki, right? Because of the dry weather, right? So they left, by the way, that's the original one, except that layer down there at the bottom, that's what we added to support the original one. Okay. So that means that they were using ramps of mud brick from both sides to build the pylon. Then afterwards, they would start to smooth it and to make the reliefs while they are going down. So at the end, nothing will be left of this ramp and the pylon would be finished. But I want you to have a look. Please get to my right. Get over here a little bit, everybody, so you can see that. I want you to have a look to the left of the second hole on the second row. There is a seashell there. Can you see it? Can you see it? And they have formed steps also by the second hole. Can you see that? Inside. The seashell, one of the samples for Christianity. The early Christians inhabited these holes. Wherever we go in Upper Egypt, you will find that the early Christians were there. The reason, the capital of Egypt at that time was Alexandria. So the early believers, they were escaping as much as they can from the Romans, either to the south or to the desert. And that's why Egypt was the first country in the world in having monasteries and monks. Those who were living in the desert to avoid the punishment of the Romans. Which means that at that time, that mud brick ramp was up to there. Up to these steps. It was right up to there, and that's how they were able to reach it. Then they needed these two steps to go inside. So that's why they formed or they shaped three steps above each other, and they have added the seashell, and actually there is also a cross inside taking the shape of the Ankh sign. And I think you still remember we said that samples appeared in Christianity to avoid the punishment of the Romans in the beginning. Any questions so far? This way, please. This Sphinx belongs to Tutankhamun, by the way.
So is this the tallest temple of all of them, or is it just
I'm sorry?
Is this the tallest temple of all of them?
They're big. They're huge.
Yeah.
It's Karnak. We're talking Karnak.
Is the biggest one of all of them?
We're talking Karnak. That's the highest, 22 meters. This is the unique temple I told you about, one of the temples at El Karnak, one of the temples at El Karnak. The unique thing about it, that it was built, decorated, and finished by one pharaoh during his reign, Ramesses III, a great warrior who built an Egyptian empire. He's depicted inside taking the Osiris form. That's the one who used to give a lot of presents and a lot of gifts to his soldiers when they show him how many enemies they killed in the battlefield, right? By cutting the right hands. Then he found that he was cheated by some of his soldiers. Some of his soldiers used to chop or to cut the right hands of the dead Egyptian soldiers too. More hands they show him, more gifts they will take. He was a smart king. He asked them to stop doing this habit and to cut the male organ instead of the hand. Why? Pardon?
Need the hands to work.
They're dead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because the Egyptians were circumcised.
Oh,
right?
Is that the part he switched from hand to penis?
Yes. And by the way, one of the common things, if you look to the plan of this temple, it's a plan of a Jewish temple. You will find circumcision, it's in Judaism. Judaism appeared here, Fox. So they got to be an influence. And the influence is always by the majority, by the community. If I send my kids when they were kids to the States, in 10 years' time, you wouldn't find the neighborhood talking in Arabic, but we'll find the kids talking in Spanish, English. Depends which state, right? Right? So that's why you will find a lot of similarities. Here, that's a statue for Ramses II, or Ramses the Great. And we can see that female figure down there. Ladies, it's your turn. Get closer to me if you don't mind. Ladies, in particular.
How close? How close?
Ladies,
How close?
ladies. Follow
You only
me to
wish.
Britain. There is a
You
program
only
called
wish.
Follow Me
You
to
only
Britain. They teach English. It's called, I'm saying ladies. How close is close? That's another question. Right. Ladies, what do you think? Were wives important in ancient Egypt comparing to their husbands?
Yes. A lot smaller.
Louder?
A lot smaller. And underneath the feet. Underneath the leg.
I wish she was here. My wife. Right. No, they were extremely important. They were extremely important. The royal blood was running through the women. No one could be the pharaoh if he was not the son of the royal wife, or if he was not married to a woman who's carrying the royal blood. It's via the women. But I don't know if did you notice that it's also in Judaism, a real Jewish who got a Jewish mother. Right? You go to Christianity, you will find the Holy Mother. You go to the Muslims and you will find that the Muslims are saying on the judgment day, people will be called by the names of their mothers, not their parents, not their fathers. Why always the mother, the mother, the mother?
Because you know she's a mother.
Because no one could prove that he's the son of this man. Even with our modern technology now, there are mistakes with the DNA. But we can have eyewitnesses saying he's the son of this woman. Another thing, when we say it's via the women, the number is limited. She can have a child every 9 months, 1 year, right? The man could have 9 a day. I mean, I cannot generalize everything we have here in Egypt, but Right. He can wait. Right? But, right, if she was that important, why she's represented smaller than him? Because Ramses II was not a normal pharaoh. Ramses II was one of the few pharaohs in Egypt who believed that he was a god during his life, during his reign, like his father Seti, like Khufu. All the other pharaohs, they were deities, but after their death. But I want you to notice something. Choose the tallest one between us and ask him or her to look at her statue. You will find that she's raising her head or his head up. She's higher than any one of us. She's higher than any normal person, but she's not like Ramses. The man believed in himself. Typical man, yeah. All right. Right. So the wives, they were extremely important. Are you happy now, ladies?
The royal wife.
The wives.
But the second wife was not as important.
The wives in general, one of the title for any wife in Egypt was the lady of the house.
Okay.
And that's why if you look to the ladies anywhere in Egypt, you will find them represented with a lightly creamy skin color. While when you look to the husband, you will find him represented with a darker skin color to show that she does not expose her body to the sun. She stays home. And she got a slave working for her. They call him nowadays husband. Assalamu alaikum. ازي الصحة؟ يا صباح البنجور. ازاي يا اخبارك؟ ازاي صحتك؟ الله يكرمك ويبارك فيك. ربنا يكرمك ويبارك فيك. I'm sorry. Closer to me, if you don't mind, please. Those who are at the back. You won't be able to shout. We have some colleagues around us. Right. Where we are now, this is the great Hypostyle hall of the Karnak temples. I told you before that Karnak is the biggest worshipping place ever built in the history of the mankind. This is the biggest closed worshipping hall built on earth. 5,000 square meters, consisting of 134 columns. The central columns are about 21, 22 meters up. The scholars who came with Napoleon Bonaparte, they found that each one of these capitals could stand 100 men standing on each one of them. And that's why the scholars who came with Napoleon, they gave it that name, the fruit of Egypt. We can see several decorations and paintings, colors. If you still remember when we were there at Esna, and I said the uncovering of the colors of the paintings, and I told you also that I'm very proud that the ones who did this here in this court where we are, they were the young ladies. They were the young ladies who did that here, right? That the president himself and the prime minister had to come and shake their hands, thanking them for what. Can I add another thing? They did that during COVID.
Yeah.
Right? And all the paintings, the colors you can see now, these are the original colors. Right? You will find that the capitals of the central columns are taking the shape of the opened papyrus flower, while the shorter ones are taking the shape of the closed bud. They use the space or the distance between the higher columns and the shorter ones to make windows. So this is how they were lighting this place. This place was lit. It was roofed, stoned roof, and they used the distance or the space to light this site or to light this colonnade. Have a look behind you, please. It's written up there under this cartouche. John Garden, 1804. When he wrote this, he was standing on his feet. He was a very tall man. Or the ground was higher. Or the ground was higher. Yes. The floods, the sandstorms, the silt was built up by the time that this was the level of the ground at that time. 1804. Another thing. I'll ask you a favor, please. I need some of you, not all of you. I want you to make a circle around this column. Hold your hands, stretch your arms as much as you can. Stretch your arms as much as you can. Anyway, just a circle. These are not stretched arms. I want them very stretched. The arms stretched. These are not stretched arms. I'm going to take some of you off. No. Some off. No, close to the column. Some off. Off. Please. Hold your hands. Hold your hands. Hold your hands. One off. Hold your hands. One off. Hold your hands. Hold your hands. One off. Hold your hands. Are they stretched now? No, they're not. One off. One off. I want you to see you suffering. Right? Stretch your arms. Now, why I'm insisting on saying stretched arms? One off, Fox. Seriously, I mean it. One off. Okay, stretch your arms. Now hold. That's it. Now these are stretched arms. Now these are stretched arms. For the rest, please, this way. Fox, will catch you now way back. Right? No, I want you to count them, please. Count them. Count them. Count them. 10. Are you sure? 10? Okay, come back, everybody. I insist, come back, everybody. Yes, you can go now. You're released. You see how kind I am? I didn't leave you until we come back. Right? Right. That I insisted that the arms had to be stretched so each one of you was 6 feet, 2 meters. Right? Each one of you was 6 feet. So we needed 10. Actually, you need 9 to 10 people around the base of one column. And we have here 134 columns. Can you imagine now the area I'm talking about? That's why I did that. So I wanted to give you an idea. How's the situation here? Several pharaohs spent their lives working in here. Started by Ramesses I, city first, and the work was finished by Ramesses II. The last thing I want to say here, that it is here where they filmed a lot of famous films. Death on the Nile. That's where they pushed the block to kill the lady, if you remember those who watched that film. The Spy Who Loved Me, 008. That's in Europe. Different timing here, man. 007, The Spy Who Loved Me. Right? Roger Moore, right? Another thing, the why I can remember also the Love Boat, except that in these movies you find them walking in Cairo, the Sound and Light show, then they appear here in the Sound and Light show, 700 kilometers. They will be walking here, then coming out from Kumombo Temple, 200 kilometers. I mean, films, you know. Right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes sharp for photographing. Then we come back here. Right? So I can give you some free time in another places. But here, 5 minutes sharp.